You've both built a tech-backed grocery platform at a time when the idea itself felt impractical. As AI now enters existing retail operations, what parallels do you see between the early leap and today's AI adoption? And what hard lessons should leaders remember when layering AI onto legacy systems without breaking the business?
There's a lot of parallels. Whenever you're introducing a new technology into an established industry, and more importantly, a consumer habit. So we're talking about adding AI into everything that we do, whether it's in our consumer life or it's actually our corporate. And the same thing applied when we actually started with grocery. So there were some very common, very basic things we had to figure out is what's the user experience going to look like? What are the types of products that consumers are willing to actually buy online versus not have the trust to do so? What's an expected turnaround time? There's a lot of experimenting that we had to do in early lives. And I'm seeing the same thing with AI. There's a lot of debate. Is chat the actual proper user interface? Is it going to replace the entry-level positions, or is it more importantly in the very strategic aspects? So experimentation, trying things out, and in the early stages when we started grocery, there was a lot of trial and error. What do you think, Majed?
Yes. I totally agree, and it was, as you mentioned, it was very basic. Looking at the complexity today, think about this 10 years ago. It would have been extremely challenging to even start something like what we currently have. So it has grown gradually. So basics where the approach was very basic. You need to know, as you also mentioned, the customer experience, what are the customer needs. And back then, we lacked so much of data, so much of, customer understanding or customer persona. So there was a lot of trial and error. Being tied with a good team, analyzing also manually the data points that you have, sitting every day, every night, talking to your team, understanding the customers. Sometimes we pick the phone and just call a random customer. You open the system, you pick a phone number. You just call the customer and tell them, listen, I've seen your order. This is your experience as we are understanding. Can you tell us more? And it's surprising the amount of experience or data you got from basic phone call to your customers. So for us, the starting point was the customer. It still is. But now tools are around it, tools are governing the data, and we can further enhance the experience in an easier way from an operational point of view.
No, absolutely. You're talking about the early days, and especially the user experience. One thing that, we started around the same time in grocery. And one thing, whenever we looked into Saudi, the consumer habits were very, very interesting because they're very fast moving. I guess maybe one thing that would be it would be good to share. What did you see, or what surprised you the most about the Saudi consumer habits as the business scaled up?
So see, going to a supermarket or grocery shopping used to be one of the main attractive, let's say, activities for a family household or for a household. When the country started evolving and started having so many more things to do, we have seen the shift in customer behavior. They need to trust the brand to buy groceries, because groceries to any household is a very close item. This is food you get to your kids, to your family. So we used to have let's say, a very famous saying in the office, and we wrote it everywhere, that if this item that you're picking, you won't feed your kid, don't pick it up, keep it. Even it led us to mark some items out of stock, but we avoided getting something that we don't really think or see is fit. Gaining the customer trust is very important. But of course, the main shift of the customer behavior was COVID. So when COVID hits, everything shifted. It turned from being something that people are liking to do to something that people have to do. So, and this has put in a huge stress on our infrastructure. So I am sure you had the same experience, but because we had the basics well planned, so we were able to scale. So I don't know can you tell us more about the COVID around 19 or 2020? What happened overnight? Because we've seen a spark overnight, and it was an amazing journey back then.
It was a very stressful time. So look, before, so I don't know if you remember, but in 2015, 2016, food delivery was all the rage. All the investments went in there. The grocery was considered a low margin business, not interesting enough for investors. The retailers were very difficult to deal with. And so we all struggled to get buy-in into growing that business. And even our consumers, why would I need to do it online? I have a baqala down the building, or I don't trust someone to buy my fresh fruits and vegetables online. So there's a lot of pessimism. When Corona happened, when COVID happened, reality hit. You can live without a food delivery. You cannot live without your groceries. And so that became a primary need. A lot of investments went in, a lot of focus went in, and the consumer, once they started getting used to it, they liked it. And we got, obviously during COVID, we had a 5x growth overnight, but while some of it receded, we kept the majority of it, and it really was a turning point for us.
I usually avoid saying this, but these were good days. It was good days for retail. It was good days for customer behavior. It shifted so many things. And now you can see it. One night I was sitting watching a movie with my 12-year-old daughter, and she was like, I'd like to have some type of a sweet or something. So her phone was beside her. She picked her phone, she ordered, and then she put the phone back. 30 minutes later, the dessert was on the table. Can you imagine this generation going to a supermarket to pick groceries or to weigh tomatoes or apples? It will never happen. So the shift is coming, and now we're seeing it, and I'm hoping we're ready for it. And this comes with so many stressful things, especially on supply chain, and especially on data, analyzing data, and completing the entire ecosystem. So you follow your customer everywhere he goes, and then you try to cater the best out of it.
Absolutely. I guess when we're talking about stressful things, what do you consider right now are the biggest challenges? Is it in the industry so far? Is it still the logistics of it all? Is it finding the right talent? Is it the technology? Or is it still getting the consumer to trust what we are offering them?
So can I choose couple or one?
Absolutely. You can
Couple?
do whatever you want.
Okay, so the most important is talent, for sure. You need a very strong team. And as per the previous colleagues in the panel, they were saying that technology is an enabler, but you need an actual person who is talented to analyze and take actions on these data. So for me, the number one challenge has been always and still is talented people. Talented employees, we call them partners. Second to this is supply chain. Now, catering for supply chain in high frequency, huge line item of orders per order is very challenging. And as you mentioned earlier, you cannot make money selling groceries. The margins are very slim. Plus, you burn the money in the last mile. So whatever margin you make on your basket, you burn it in the last mile cost. So if you're not optimizing the basket to gain enough margin to cover your OPEX, it will never make sense. This comes with data, and it comes with complementing services all the way to loyalty programs, collision programs as per the colleagues, and then co-branded credit cards, and then it goes. The nice thing about grocery is that the frequency is high. So you get to see what are people doing, where are they moving, and the more you dig, the more you analyze, the more you can actually see. But if I to ask you this, what are the main challenges?
I think you're absolutely right. I think one thing here, and I'm assuming in Saudi is very similar, is the level of competition has set a certain set of unrealistic expectations, right? Consumers have become used to discounting, have become used to the ease of selecting between all the different players, and some unrealistic offers are being thrown here and there. This is not sustainable. And as you said, with grocery, very thin margins, unless you're able to build loyalty, you build retention, and you're providing some kind of value proposition that takes you away from just the discounting, it's going to be very difficult for us to continue the way it's currently happening. So let's see what how this ends up. But so far, very rough seas out there. But I still see some new players coming up in the industry, and they're trying their luck. I mean, obviously, we've got new players from within. We have new players coming from overseas, from very far overseas, and they're trying their luck into acquiring customers with heavy discounting, 50% off. I guess in Saudi, you're seeing the same thing. What are some of the mistakes you're seeing them make?
See, as you said, it's unsustainable. Suppose if you want to go to the market, whether it's the Saudi market or whether it's the UAE market, there's a price tag to pay to be among the 4 or 5 big players. So you need to burn money to reach that level. Whether you burn it into discounts or whether you burn it into an extremely, let's say, good outdoor exposure, you will reach. But how will you sustain yourself up there? Because you can't actually keep financing your sales forever. You see some promotions which absolutely makes no sense, but it is gaining traction. These companies are gaining traction. And as you said, they're coming from very, very far away, but they have a methodology that says we will monetize the customer later. So we look at it from a business point of view that you want to monetize the actual function, and they look at it that they want to monetize the actual customer. So monetizing the customer may end up you selling other than grocery items for him. So I'm sure you're having this with your board as you're part of a big group. So what are the conflicts that you actually see with shareholders and with the board members? Because whenever I say, let's think about monetizing later, everyone goes crazy in the boardroom and say, what do you mean? You want to keep on going on negative margin? This is not a sustainable business. And we don't finance sales. So financing sales will get you up, but how will you sustain? That's a different story.
No, absolutely right. I think so. Just for those who may not know, right? Both of us started as startups, and then we got acquired by very large groups. And to your question, the discounts that are out there are mostly venture capital backed, right? VCs are funding those startups to subsidize these sales. Once you're acquired by a large group, that strategy no longer applies. You're in a public eye, your numbers are public, you're being measured by your gross profits, you're being measured by your EBITDA, and the overall management and strategy completely changes. Now, how do you do that while still maintaining the startup spirit in the organization is a very tight, balancing a tight rope. But it is possible if you are part of a group, and I know your group is also the same, if you're part of a group that strategically wants to embrace entrepreneurship and wants to embrace new things, there are guardrails. We cannot do whatever we want to do. There are financial guardrails, there are governance guardrails, there's data privacy guardrails, but at the same time, there is still some flexibility for us. And we grow by figuring out how much, how we can make the most out of that space. Have you seen the same thing on your side?
So see, yes, I did. Sometimes I don't like it. But if you sit and you remove all the emotions and the personal aspect out of it, they do make sense. Okay, and when a big group or or board member of a big group talks, he's talking from a very strong background. He can see through things. Maybe starting a company will always have this emotional attachment to the company, where you want to jump into, you know, new ventures, you want to cut corners, and you want to do things sometimes the easy way. But you know, it's a nice language. Corporate language is nice, although it restricts you from so many things. But if you kept the same attitude, the same mentality, sooner or later the board will listen. Because at the end of the day, shareholders or the stock market will want someone to know what he's talking about. I'll tell you what, selling an idea to the board is not that difficult, okay? But if they can see it in you, if they can believe that you can actually do it, they will buy in. But now, how will you govern it? How will you lay it out? How will you execute? That's a totally different thing. But at the end of the day, when I started the acquisition, one of the advisors told me, listen, it will be a painful exercise. You may not like it, but it is the step to a totally different world. You get exposed to the capital market, you get, as you said, exposed to the public, your numbers will be published, people will say, how are you doing this? You're earning only 3-4% margin, this won't cover your OPEX, so on and so forth. And the difficult thing about this is that the market is keep on expanding. You need to keep on expanding with the market. That will always put a very big pressure on your cash flow, which is what other people or other big tech companies are doing. You need to keep on expanding. You need to capitalize. Depreciation will hit. It's so complicated. But if you're seeing your journey, just focus on keep on going. So if you could share with us, let's say a conflict that happened between you and the board of your company.
Putting me on the spot. Look, I think in general, how do you actually respond, as we said, to VC-backed competitors that are doing, you know, illogical things when it comes to subsidizing and discounting, and then looking at, you know, long-term, because in our field, you're, as you said, you're building for now to get later. And people who have to report on a quarterly basis don't really have that long-term vision. However, I don't want to bore everybody here. Everybody here is thinking about AI, and this is the key buzzword. Let's finish it on this futuristic view. How are you looking at using AI, and what's your advice in how to use AI in an ongoing business, not something that's in a greenfield?
So in an ongoing business, it helps you fetch data, analyze data in a way faster way. But again, as per the previous panel also, you need to have a well-structured database. So this also exposed some flaws in some systems that we're using. So it helped us improve all the infrastructure. It helped us cleanse the data. And now we're fetching very clean data, very neat data that our members can analyze in no time. And then you can do new things. To suppose the recipe feature that we're enable, you can go into the application and ask the AI agent that I need a snack. We're 4 guys. We all don't eat sugar. 200 calories per person. Give me some recommendations. And then you get all the recommendations. These things were impossible to do before. Now it's a click of a button. There is also households that I want to prepare dinner. My friends are coming. Our budget is suppose 500 riyals, and we want to grill something and rice on the side. Then AI agent will fetch. So, but you need to keep on looking at what are the fetch data, and then you can monetize also recommendations out of this. Also, I'm sure you're doing the same thing. So if you can share a case with us also, so we can see also where is this thing going.
I'll try to address it a little bit differently, because most people are now talking about the consumer-facing experiences. And as you mentioned, there are some really cool experiences. But in our business, we're very operationally heavy, right? We do a lot of logistics, operation, when you're managing your own stores, receiving, stocking, merchandising, delivering. And so finding ways to optimize which will improve those gross profit margin points, right? Finding ways to optimize that while getting the buy-in from your team. Because as you're operating, you have to, and you're injecting AI, you're kind of replacing your engine in a Formula One car while you're in the middle of the race, right? And so figuring out how to do that without disrupting the existing business is challenge number one. Challenge number two, how do you get the team to buy in and not see it as a threat? Because everybody's talking about replacement of jobs. Nobody wants to adopt AI if they think it's going to replace their jobs. So asking a question, a question that was asked in the previous panel, you do it by aligning incentives with the outcomes. And once you do that, incentives shapes behavior. There is a lot of challenges, there's a lot of unknowns, but it's got to come from the top. The buy-in has to come from the top. And as you know, there is potentially a lot of improvements and wins that we can get out of it, but the journey is at the very beginning, and there's going to be a lot of pitfalls we're going to learn as we go along. Appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.